What is up, you beautiful happy hustlers out there? Kerry Jack here, and I am with the one, the only Mr. Bedros Keuilian in his studio, ready to rock the mic and drop a bunch of value for you happy hustlers out there. Bedros, what's up, man?
What's happening, Kerry? Appreciate the opportunity, and I appreciate you flying all the way out from Montana to beautiful Southern California.
Yeah, brother. I mean, the honor is mine, and I got to say, it's a pretty gangster way to do podcasts. Hey, if you want an interview, you come to me. We'll just rock it in my studio. I'll send you the file.
Look, I figure it's an irresistible offer, right? It's like, hey, you come to me, and I'll make sure I provide the production, the video guy, all of it. That way, because when people are like, I don't know if this ever happens to you.
Yeah.
They're like, hey, man, I want to interview you. And I'm like, all right, cool. How? They're like, oh, Zoom. I'm like, man, no one watches Zoom. No one listens to Zoom. So I'd rather do it this way in person.
Dude, you're spot on.
Yeah.
It's awesome. And I mean, you're an inspiration. You are a serial entrepreneur, Wall Street Journal bestselling author. You're a husband, a father. You're just a happy hustler, man. And I know you got a lot of content out there in the world. You have a massive podcast and following, but I'm curious, what is something interesting about Bedros that not too many people know?
Something interesting about me that not too many people know is that I'm a very avid and above average ping pong player.
Really?
I play table tennis like a motherfucker.
You got a table here?
Not actually, we do have one here we actually do have one, don't we? Yeah, but at home, I've got a professional level table, and
Whoa.
I trained my son since he was 7 years old.
Whoa.
He's now 19, and we play like we were Chinese dudes in sweatsuits, man. Yeah.
Well, you are talking to the Carnival Cruise '08 champion right here.
There we go.
So maybe we'll get a game one of these days.
You might just have an opposition here, yeah.
That's awesome, man. Ping pong. I know you do jiu-jitsu and all
Yeah.
sorts of badass shit,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
ping pong.
It's not like a big thing in the U.S., right?
No.
Ping pong, but where I come from, Armenia, it's definitely something that takes place in Armenia and all those Eastern Bloc countries, obviously throughout Asia. And so my dad got me into it. I got my son into it, and it's just one of those things where I'll be somewhere and I'll see a ping pong table and I'll pick up a paddle and off we go.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Well, speaking of Armenia, I mean, you escaped this communist country to come to America at a young age.
Yeah.
And you largely realized the American dream.
Yeah. Yeah.
What would you say is the biggest misconception about the American dream?
Well, so the misconception back then, so keep in mind, I'm 50 years old now. I
Right.
was 6 years old when my family and I escaped the Soviet Union, which at the time Armenia was a part of the Soviet Union. My dad was a member of the Communist Party. We defected. We went to Italy and went to the American consul and said, hey, we denounced communism. And my dad said, pump me for whatever information you need. And we just want to go to America and be good citizens and take advantage of the opportunity that this great country has to offer. So he raised me to understand that this country will provide freedoms, opportunities, so long as you are adding value to the country and to the people in it, right? And when you think about what entrepreneurism is, what business is, it's adding value, solving someone's problems, giving them a product that makes them happy in exchange for money. So it's not too far off from what my dad kind of conditioned me to do. So back then, the misconception was you come to America and all of a sudden we had this misunderstanding that the streets were paved with gold and anyone comes from any country automatically has access to freedom and opportunities. No, it has to be earned. So, we lived in Section 8 housing. We were on food stamps. I remember dumpster diving for food. I remember getting kicked out of apartment complexes that were like crappy apartment complexes that we just couldn't afford to pay the rent in, and trying to figure out, my mom and dad trying to figure out where we're going to live. Back then in the 80s, it's not like that now. That law was taken away, but there was a law that said no, you can have apartment complexes with no kids, right? So it said no kids allowed. Well, some of the Section 8 housing complexes that were very low in price were no kid apartment complexes. So my mom and dad would sneak me in and out of the complex. Well, it doesn't take long before a 6, 7, 8-year-old kid gets seen, because at some point I got to get out of the apartment and play, right? And so, because of my desire to get out and play, we'd get evicted and then off to the next apartment complex, et cetera. So there was a lot of hardship and there was a lot of assimilation required. It's not like Google Translate existed where, my dad can just speak Armenian into Google and then have you hear it and understand it. You had to learn the language. So the misconception back then was that the streets are paved with gold, opportunity is available to all, and come and get it, right? When in reality, it's like assimilate, work hard, figure it out, learn to add value, and a few years later, you can start gaining traction in life. Now, the misconception today is people actually think that the American dream is dead. They think it's no longer accessible. They think it's out of reach. They think the heydays are behind us. As someone that experienced the American dream in the 80s and throughout the 90s as I became a teenager, and when I look at it now, like when I look at my son who's 19 and my daughter who's 17, the American dream is so easy for them to start creating money for themselves because you've got an iPhone, you can create content, you can put that content on social media platforms. The algorithm will figure out what the content is and who it's for, and then we'll build an audience for you. And then as long as you have an offer to make on the back end, in my son's case, he goes to all these different thrift shops and garage sales, and he'll find stuff. Like the other day, he came home with, like, I'm not even kidding, 120 guitar straps.
What?
He found it at some garage sale. The guy was a hoarder.
Just hoarding guitar straps.
Yeah, 120 guitar straps for $50.
Damn.
Right? He goes onto Facebook Marketplace and eBay, and immediately on the spot while he's at the garage sale, and he sees like the average guitar strap sells for $8. So he buys it all for $50 and then sells it off one at a time. Right? So imagine how quickly we've seen Gary Vaynerchuk show us how he can just go and buy, old baseball cards, basketball cards, whatever. Yeah. So the barrier to entry is actually lower than ever into the American dream today. Yeah. So, but most people, because they're so lazy, they're so complacent, they think the American dream is dead, it's far gone, it's no longer within reach. That's the biggest lie ever. And that's the misconception. People mistaken their laziness and their complacency for the fact that the dream is dead. It's not dead. It's actually more available than ever and easier to access if you have the happy hustle.
Yeah, amen to that. We can just end it there.
Right there.
No, I mean, it is so true. The American dream is alive and well.
Yeah.
It's just look a little different now than it used to.
Technology has shifted.
Right.
Time has shifted. People's needs and desires have shifted.
Right.
And so, like, I know a young man, he's 18 years old. Bro, you know what he did? He created how, like, if you're a real estate agent, you can slap that magnet on the side of your car that says, Century 21 and your name and, of course, your phone number and website, right? So it's one of those magnets, but it's got a little chip embedded in it, right? Except it's not even a magnet. It's a film now that you can just put on, right? And then peel back off and put back on. It is a trackable link, basically, that for every mile you drive. So he gets advertisers, and then those advertisers say, all right, we'll pay whatever, $1,000 a month to get these on different cars. So if you're driving throughout Montana anyways, you slap this thing on, it tracks the mileage, and it pays you X number of cents per mile that you drive. And if you want to peel it off because you're going to a wedding or a funeral and you're like, I don't want to be a driving billboard, you can. This young man just thought of this. He's like, all these Uber drivers can literally slap this on there, and while they're making Uber money,
double up.
They can double up, right? And so it's the imagination is the limit. Like, it's that quick. And this kid's already, like, he was making money pre-revenue because he got investors on board with it. One of my dear friends is an investor in it. I'm an investor in it simply because we saw where this is going to go.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great idea. What's it called? Shout out to that.
I can't share it yet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, we'll shout it out when you're ready.
Yeah. Soon as it goes to market. As soon as it goes to market, we'll be able to share that, yeah.
Well, I mean, speaking of which, you have over a dozen different brands and businesses. And I mean, I read, you can fact check me, but your businesses collectively are generating over 200 million a year. Is that, I mean,
200 million a year
and starting
revenue.
from where you started, that's got to be kind of mind blowing to think of where you're at now and where you're going to be in the future.
Yeah.
Talk to us a little bit about what's coming down the pipe for Bedros.
Yeah. So let's keep in mind that I'm 50 years old. And so I've been in business for 23 years now, right? And so, when you look at Fit Body Bootcamp, our international fitness franchise, I started off with an idea. Right. And it was, okay, what can we do to make personal training more cost effective and more convenient for people? All right, can we do group training, take that outdoor boot camp, bring it indoors, use equipment, 30-minute sessions, one trainer, 25, 30 clients, and that's how Fit Body Bootcamp came to be. Yeah. So, right now that provides the lion's share of the $200 million in revenue that my companies generate. Well, right now we have hundreds of locations throughout U.S. and Canada, but we started off with one. One became two became four became 8. And as the product delivered results, some clients, believe it or not, who got great results, ascended up and decided, I think I want to open up a Fit Body Bootcamp.
Yeah.
I've gotten amazing results.
Yeah.
I've got money. I want to open up a location that has done for you marketing and has a sales system in place and a recognizable brand. And so when people are like, man, $200 million a year, that's how are you ever going to reach that? It's untouchable. It's like you get there one bite at a time with that elephant, right? We've all heard, like, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time.
Right.
And so I share this with people because when I grew Fit Body Bootcamp into hundreds of locations, I told myself, when I get to 500 locations, I'm going to create a supplement line that I can then bring into Fit Body Bootcamp and make it accessible to all of our hundreds of thousands of members nationwide.
Right.
So it's like you create a big enough business over time, and I can create another business that serves the people. Again, going back to what my dad said when I was 6 years old. Serves the people in my business, adds value to their life with the cleanest, most tastiest supplements, Truline, and then they buy it, they use it in conjunction with their workouts and nutrition plan, they get better results. And so then Truline starts to become a 6-figure and then 7-figure and now 8-figure company. And so it's not rocket science. It's just taking that one bite of the apple at a time, or that elephant. And when you decide that you're tired, you're fatigued, you do it anyway. When you decide that you don't feel like doing it, you do it anyway.
Yeah.
When you decide that competition's too steep and it's costing you too much and you made a big mistake and you lost a few $100,000, you sack up like a man and you do it anyway.
Yeah.
And over time, the guy that doesn't quit is destined to win.
Right.
Like there it is, 23 years, overnight success.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? But what's coming down the pipeline, you ask?
Yeah.
Well, so now I take equity in other companies. So, you look at the shirt that I'm wearing, Fuel Hunt.
Yeah.
Rather than starting up new companies, now I've got here's a cool thing about building a business. What you're doing, you build a business, you build a brand, and your business starts getting all these clients. The clients start following you. Then you launch a podcast. The podcast takes off because what you're sharing on the podcast are all your wins and losses and failures and successes and lessons that you've learned in business. And then you create the next business and you share more of those things. And now your podcast is successful. So now you have a big Instagram following, big YouTube following, TikTok, whatever. And before you know it, people reach out to you and they go, hey, would you promote our shirts? And it's like, well, I like your shirt. I actually would wear your shirt. I've got the audience who would buy your shirt. Instead of paying me to promote it, what if you give me equity in it, right? And actually coach you guys to scale bigger. Right. So instead of just being an ambassador or an athlete, how about I actually coach and mentor you guys to scale bigger, but I have equity in it. So when you get acquired or you go down the road and sell, I get a big exit as well. And so now whether it's Fuel Hunt or Fit Pro Tracker, the software company for front desk systems for gyms, I take equity in companies and help them scale faster by exposing it to my big audience. And that's the beautiful thing about being successful in business. Today, successful business people are like the rock stars of the 90s.
It's true.
Right?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, think about this. You're successful in what you do. You have a social media following.
Yeah.
This is your podcast. The bigger your brand gets, the more leverage you have when someone comes to you and says, hey, would you promote our shit? And you could be like, you know what? I think I'd like to take equity in your shit.
Yeah.
Because when you take equity, you now have the opportunity for an exit down the line.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that. And so today I take equity in companies, help them scale and sell. And I'm in the process of writing 2 books at the same time.
Damn.
One will come out late 2026. One will come out late 2027. And this is on the tails of Man Up. Man Up became an international bestseller, Wall Street Journal bestseller.
Great book.
Yeah, thank you. So, and then, of course, I do a lot of coaching and consulting. I love coaching and consulting entrepreneurs who are looking to scale. All my companies now have great leaders in place, and so I lead my leaders. My leaders lead the company and the team members, and so I don't work with individual team members on a one-on-one basis anymore. I'm no longer the CEO of Fit Body Bootcamp. I am the founder of Fit Body Bootcamp. I'm no longer the CEO of Fuel Truline Supplements. I'm the founder, and so we have VPs, head of operations, CEOs in place. And when you find the right people and you have the right product and you install the right processes, that's the trifecta for the big win.
I love it, man.
Yeah.
People, product, processes. Just to double click on a couple things you said. One, I've heard you say, if you're going to eat shit, get good at it.
Get good at it. I'm a master shit eater.
Yeah. You know what? I feel like I eat some shit pretty good myself.
Yeah.
but not at your level yet, but one day, man.
Yep.
But it's such a
People
true
listening
statement.
are like, what the hell? These guys are proud of the fact that they eat shit. Not in the literal way, but yeah, right?
You just clip that.
I mean, you know this for a fact. Like, the more adversity you can deal with, the more setbacks you can eat, the more challenges you can digest, the faster you move forward.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's such a pivotal piece of entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
And that's oftentimes when people quit, right?
Yep.
And that's why people don't realize the American dream, or any dream for that matter.
Yeah.
They get, back into the 9-to-5 corporate grind, which studies show 2 out of every 3 employees are said to be disengaged and unhappy hustling, which is a big epidemic in my opinion. And then you also said, this journey of now you're not really hands-on CEO, you're actually leading the leaders.
Right.
And that is the ultimate goal, is delegating your time, right? Automating, delegating, eliminating, and being more of the maestro from the top.
Yeah.
Talk to us about that transition, because I think a lot of entrepreneurs, especially the happy hustlers out there watching and listening, really aspire to be in that place where they can take equity in companies that they see promise in, they can stay in their unique genius, they can lead leaders, but there's some growing pains. I always say it takes 60 days typically of when you hire someone. It's going to be more work than less work, because you got to train them to do the shit that you were doing plus do their shit. You know what I mean? It's like a double up there.
Yeah.
So how have you made that transition successfully, in any tactics or tips in order to do so, to replicate?
Yeah. You hire slow, fire fast. And I'll give you a great example of that. Let's use the CEO of my biggest company, Fit Body Bootcamp, right? So we've got this big, giant, mega franchise with hundreds of locations across the U.S. and Canada. And I was the founder, I was the CEO, I was the visionary. And at some point, about 10 years ago, because I started the franchise about 15 years ago, about 5 years in, I was like, you know what? I've got a decent team, but I find myself leading the team. I need someone in between me and the team so that I could be more the founder and the visionary. Because at the end of the day, Kerry has to figure out where Happy Hustle is going 3 years, 5 years down the road.
Right.
And if you're always looking down and in and not up and out, you're not going to be able to figure out where your organization is going.
True.
Right? And so you can't be in the weeds all the time.
Right.
And so with that, 10 years ago, my journey set out to find myself my future successor as a CEO. Bryce, who's currently my CEO, he was my 4th hire. So you're going to have to kiss a lot of toads to find that prince or princess who's going to be your CEO.
Yeah.
The first guy ended up being an absolute, like, on paper, he looked great.
Yeah.
In fact, he interviewed well. And then the first, 6 months there, lots of great ideas. And then about 8 months in, I realized there's not a lot of execution. This guy's just the idea guy.
Yeah.
So I parted ways with him.
Yeah.
And here's what happens. When that happens to a new entrepreneur or a newer entrepreneur, they lose hope.
It's true.
They go, you know what? I tried to delegate my leadership. It didn't work. I guess I got to be in the weeds.
Yeah.
It's going to have to grow slow, and I'm going to have to be the employee, the most important employee in my own company. That sucks, right? So I was like, no, I'm not going to be that guy. I'm not going to be handcuffed to my own business.
Yeah.
So then I went for the second guy. A very similar issue. Then I went for the third guy. He decided to put his dick in one of our employees. Very bad idea. Very bad idea. Don't do that as a leader of the company.
Leave your dick out of the employees.
Right. Leave your dick in your pants. Yeah. Pro tip. Leave your dick in your pants. And so then I fired guy number 3.
Yeah.
And then I find guy number 4, Bryce. And so I was willing to kiss as many toads as I needed to, no matter what.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, you're a young man, probably in your 30s?
35, yeah.
35. All right, so let's go back to, 18, 19, 20. You've probably had girlfriends, and maybe you've broken up with some, and maybe some have broken up with you.
I was a savage like you, if you want to know.
All right, well, there you go. we needn't say any more. So clearly,
I know your stories. So.
Yeah, then you've been broken up with, and you've done the breaking up. That doesn't mean that you were like, well, that first one didn't work, so I'm going to have to be a monk, right?
Yeah.
Because as men, we go out and we look for that next one, look for the next one until we find the right one. But in business, for some reason, soon as we think the one that was supposed to be our leader or the one that was supposed to be our head marketing person, salesperson, CEO doesn't work out, we're like, well, that's proof that God wants me to stay in the weeds. No, that's proof that God wants you to pay the price because there's a price to success and you got to pay it. Sometimes that price is paid in frustration, in making the bad decisions, wrong decisions, learning to pivot. And then when you make that right decision, and then you gain the rewards from it.
Yeah.
And that is the freedom that you get.
Yeah. It's true. You got to kiss some toads.
That's it.
To get to where you want to
Yeah.
go. And you mentioned freedom. We talk a lot about freedom at the Happy Hustle, the 3 freedoms specifically: creative freedom, time freedom, and financial freedom.
Yep.
And I don't believe you can achieve those 3 freedoms working a job. What's your take?
No, I agree. You can, well, the older I get, the more I realize like freedom / happiness is an inside job anyway.
Right.
But if you have a job, you cannot really achieve all of those 3. You might be able to achieve one of those 3. You might be able to achieve 2 of those 3, but you really can't. The last and final holdout would be probably time freedom.
Right.
Because you might achieve financial freedom because, hey, I'm going to budget my money.
Yeah.
And I'm going to work my way up into this company and do sales or be a leader and make good money and budget my money. And so I'm financially good, right? And I'm going to invest as much of it as I can and let compounding interest do its thing. Okay, so great. You got the financial freedom. Creative freedom, maybe you're working your way up in the company where the work you do is so creative, you're in flow state, you're awesome, you're good to go. But at the end of the day, you're still answering to someone. And therefore, the time freedom is limited by someone's desire to pull your chain and leash and tell you, hey, we need you this weekend or in the evenings or to fly out. Because when you're really good at what you do, you're also the secret weapon that they send out to close the big deal or to put out the fire. So time freedom is the last and final holdout.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And I'm curious, I mean, I know there's differing methodologies when it comes to achieving those 3 freedoms and doing a side hustle. People out there watching and listening, maybe they're an aspiring entrepreneur. They see someone like you and they're like, right now, Bedros, I'm working a job, man. I need to get myself out of it, but I know Tony Robbins talks about burn the boats.
Yep.
But I got a mortgage, I got a family, I got shit that I got to pay for.
Yep.
What's your best practices when it comes to actually starting an aligned business that can eventually over time replace your salary?
Yeah. First of all, I know Tony, and I can tell you this: when Tony says burn the boats, he means metaphorically in your head, leave no other alternative.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
He doesn't necessarily mean, I guess if you're a single dude and you got no spouse, you got no house, you got no kids, guess what? You can burn the boats, live in the back of your car and figure it out. Like, whatever. But
I love Tony for the record.
Yeah. So with that in mind, what's my suggestion? Well, I tell people Friday, Saturday, and Sunday is all dedicated to that happy hustle.
Yeah.
It's dedicated to that side gig that's going to become your main gig 2-3 years down the line. And when I say Friday night, Saturday, and all day Sunday. Yeah. And I know what they're going to say. Well, yeah, but Friday, like worked all week and I can go out with the buddies and get the drink. Shut the fuck up. It's because of that mindset that they're peasants and they are handcuffed to a job that they hate and they resent their boss. They resent what they're doing. Time keeps ticking by. They get older and they hate life. Well, what if you don't go out and drink on that Friday night? What if you carve out 6 hours on a Saturday, carve out 6 hours on a Sunday? Dude, during my hustle phase, I would wake up at 5 a.m. on a Saturday and a Sunday, just like I do the other 5 days a week, and I would work 6 hours instead of a 10-hour day. So if you're waking up at 5 a.m., dude, by the time it's like lunchtime or just after lunch, you're free.
Yeah.
You're free to spend time with your honey, your kids, or go do whatever, right? 6 hours of focused work, 3 days a week, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 6 hours of focused work each day, 3 days a week. Bro, you will have a business that is replacing your current income within 12 months. I guarantee it.
Yeah.
And I would challenge anyone who says otherwise. The reality is most people social scroll. The average American spends 3 hours just on social media, not on video games, not on television, not on porn sites, just on social media, right? So if you're spending 3 hours a day on social media, that is not focused work you're doing. That is not, I'm doing research. No, you're not. You're checking out her ass, right? Like, at least be honest.
Research.
Yeah, research.
Yeah.
So that's the rub, man. And then when that side hustle begins to replace your current income, then you put in your resignation, and then you go all in on your hustle, and now you start scaling that.
Yeah. All right, my happy hustlers out there. Imagine a set of headphones that don't just play music, cancel noise, and take calls, but also optimize your brain and focus in the process. Well, that is what Neurable AI is all about. And these specific neurotech powered headphones, which track your brain waves in real time using these EEG sensors to help you improve focus, flow, and mental recovery. See, with Neurable's AI-driven insights through their app platform, you can actually get personalized feedback on when you're in deep focus, when you're drifting off track, and when you need to take a brain break. That way you can lock in longer, work smarter, and reduce cognitive fatigue. And the best part is you get the hookup for being a part of the Happy Hustle Tribe. You can save $100 by going to Neurable.com and using code HAPPY to save. I'll tell you what, they're made for high performers who are out there happy hustling a life that they love, both personally and professionally. And they fit with our brand mission, which is to avoid burnout and achieve that blissful balance. So I'm super stoked about this new tech that's out there and Neurable being a partner of ours. And I hope that you give them a go, especially if you're in the market for a new headphone. These are how you can ultimately increase your productivity and avoid burnout. If your brand doesn't look legit, people aren't going to treat it like it is. So whether you're building a biz from scratch or you're leveling up your current brand, 99 Designs by Vista is the ultimate creative platform for you to bring your vision to life. From logos design to app design to packaging to book covers, you name it, 99 Designs connects you with top freelance designers from around the world to create custom, memorable designs you love. We have personally at the Happy Hustle used them for book cover designs, logos, and now currently we're running a design contest for our swag shipping box. So that way, when you get a package from us, everything's branded and it looks super professional and on point. Now, you have two different ways that you can work with them. And basically, it's simple. You run a contest, let the global design community submit ideas, and then you pick the best one, or you work one-on-one with the designer who gets your vibe from start to finish. And because you're a part of the Happy Hustle Tribe, you get an exclusive $25 off your first design contest. All you gotta do is just go to 99designs.com/happy and then claim your discount and then watch your brand glow up, my friend. Do yourself a favor and just don't DIY your design. Let the pros at 99 Design by Vista help your brand thrive. Very sage words, and I completely agree. And, you know, for me, I've never had a real job, so I can't empathize with being a corporate grinder for that matter. Always just been a hustler, a hunter, will you? You know, growing up in Montana, we eat what we kill. And so that was the mindset. But I do empathize with the majority who are stuck in that limbo. And I think that advice right there can
but
get
it's also
them out
a
of it.
choice.
It is.
We can empathize with them, but I also don't. I can empathize with them, but I don't want to show them a lot of sympathy.
True.
Because today, again, as we talked earlier, the American dream is easier to achieve than ever before.
Right.
You have to do the focused work. Now, I will also say that distractions are more available than ever before.
True.
And so this is where you have to be a fucking man, put your head down, and do the work.
Yeah. And I mean, drugs, alcohol, porn, I feel like the biggest, and screen sucking, as you call it, you know, this doom scroll. These distractions can derail anybody. But you have to have discipline, as Jocko says, right? Discipline equals freedom. And I just feel like it's lacking so much in this day and age. What is your discipline mentality? Obviously, you are a man of great discipline. Do you have a process? Is it, you know, something specific, or is it just man the fuck up?
So my discipline philosophy is based on this, standards, right? Because, in fact, I put up a post today on YouTube, in the YouTube community, and I said, the saddest thing that I've ever seen is a disciplined man working on his low standard dreams, right? So you might be super disciplined, but if you have low standards for your goals, like, man, if I just make $50,000 a year, I'll be happy. I'm going to be so disciplined until I make $50,000 a year, I'm going to hold it there. Bro, that is a low standard goal, right? And so to me, it's all about standards. And if you can figure out the areas of standards, to me, there's 4 areas: faith, family, fitness, and finances, right? And so if you can set your standards for those categories, like how much time do I want to spend with my family? How much time do I want to spend in faith in terms of the higher power, and faith in myself, like the inner work that I'm going to do? Fitness, with my workouts, with my nutrition, with my mental and emotional fitness, and then my finances. How much money do I want to have? Is it just enough to have to take care of my existing family, or do I want to be the one so that when my parents get sick, I'm the one taking care of them? If my sister decides that she doesn't want to work, I'm taking care of her. If someone is in need, I'm not the one crossing my arms going, man, someone should do something about that. I am the one who does something about that, right? So I always believe that my cup should overflow by 10x. So I'm going to take whatever I need. So I set high standards. My standards are, if I'm going to go somewhere and stay with my family, like we went to Scotland. We didn't, like, okay, in Scotland, we stayed in Edinburgh Castle. We stayed at a fucking castle for crying out loud. Not even a 5-star resort, bro. And I've got the American Express Black Card that can get me into any resort. I was like, get me into the castle.
Give me the castle.
Yeah, we stayed in Edinburgh Castle. In freaking Ireland, we stayed at the Four Seasons at the master suite where we had the whole wing of the building, right? My kids were like doing sprints, like 200-yard sprints. And I share this with you because that is the standard that I've set for myself, because I come from poverty. I come from being broke. I come from living in Section 8 housing. I come from being bullied, and I see what happens when you don't have money. You are dependent on the system, on the people, on the government, on someone else. When you don't have money, you cannot exercise your freedoms. You cannot have access to the things that everyone else has. I don't want to fly to Bali during the off season, flying peasant class, having 3 stops. You know, it took me 4.5 days to get to Bali. I'm not going to be that guy, bro. Me and my family, we're going to fly first class or like private. We're going to go during the peak season. We're going to stay in the best resort, in the best fucking hut on top of the water, and we're going to have the best experiences. When you set your standards and you decide that I'm going to hold my standards here, everything else is now, okay, does this guy jive with my standards? Yes, he does. You can stay in my circle. Does he jive with my standards? Yes, he does. Does she? Nope, get out. So then I hire and fire the people and the things based on my standards, right? Because you're the CEO of your life. And so if your standards in your faith, family, fitness, and finance are set to this level, like be very clear what those standards are. Like I'll only work X number of days a week now. And it's not because I'm very fortunate. It's because I worked my nuts off for 20 some odd years to be able to get here, right? I cruise in from the outside. I didn't come downstairs. I cruise in from the outside because my standards are set in a way where I had most of the day off for myself, and good for me. I could do that. And so I share this with you because my discipline is backed by standards. And when I set my standards, I hold my standards. I measure everything that I'm going to do. If I'm going to eat, does this align with my standards of my physical self? If the answer is yes, I eat it. If the answer is no, then no. You're like, hey, man, you should come out to Venice with us and hang out tonight. I'm like, immediately went to the standard filter, right? Okay, what do I have to do tonight? Oh, that's right, I'm getting a haircut, right? I got a leadership meeting after this, and right after that, my barber's coming to me. By the way, that's one of my standards. My barber comes to me. I don't go to a barber shop. He comes to me, he cuts my hair, that keeps me efficient. My team can sit in front of me and have meetings for that 35 minutes while I'm getting a haircut because I like to multitask and get things done that way. And then tonight, I got jujitsu. So as much as I want to come out, my standards are, I'm going to spend time with my son and do jujitsu. And so if you measure everything by your standards, discipline and motivation are almost unnecessary. And standards are what matter.
Right. Yeah. Beautifully said. Setting those standards is the missing piece, I think, for most. And holding yourself to it as well.
That's it.
I do want to talk about standards for your family.
Yeah.
You know, I'm a new father. I have a little 19-month-old son named Kaizen.
Right on.
You might know the term.
Kaizen, I do.
Kaizen. Yeah. So my wife and I are in this new phase of being a mother and a father and these new identities. She's also an entrepreneur. And I know your wife and you both are entrepreneurs and building businesses together, but also raising a family together. It throws a completely different element having kids. For a new father, what would you say is the standard that you recommend so that your marriage doesn't get pushed to the wayside? Any practices there that you...
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I can give you many things because, especially now with a child in it.
Right.
Because it used to be just, hey, me and my girl, we're best friends.
Right.
We make spontaneous decisions because she's an entrepreneur, I'm an entrepreneur, so we can both work from our iPhones and we can just make a spontaneous decision and decide to go to Sedona. Right. Not anymore, homeboy. Right? Because now you've got a baby. I know. Right? Although that baby can come, but now it's a diaper bag. Now it's like, okay, who's going to watch the kids while we're eating? You know, if you're going to go have a movie night, okay, again, is grandma, grandpa on either side going to be available, etc. So there's those things, right? And so between both of you having your own businesses and having this new baby, first of all, make sure your wife never feels like your business is the other woman. That is one of the biggest. So remember, I ran 5 years, 20 classes of the Modern Day Night Project. The number one thing that men, well, the number one thing was the vices. They had they were either cheating on their spouse, they were drinking, or they were gambling or pornography. So it was one of those three vices: pussy, alcohol, or drugs or gambling. Yeah. But the second thing was, my wife feels like I no longer date her, that I'm no longer available for her, yet we have a nicer home, that we have all this money, that she drives a nice car, and we have a housekeeper that comes in 3 times a week, and blah, blah, blah. So I'm like, cool. But she probably feels like your business is the other woman. And they're like, oh, shit.
Nailed it.
Yeah. I go, I know you're not cheating on her right now, but it feels like to her that there's another interest in your life, and that's the business. And remember what you would do to go on a date with her? Like, you would put her on a pedestal. She was seen, she was heard, she was understood. And now is what we men do is we acquire something, we put it on a shelf, and we look at it. That's why, you walk into any lodge and there's all the antlers. It's like, right? No woman is killing fucking shit and posting their fucking antlers on, right? Or in my gym, I built out my gym and I put 2 glass doors so that I could see the garage in the back of the gym where I can have my cars, because I'm like, I want to show something from my work. Well, no woman's doing that, bro. And so they want to be seen and heard just like they were seen and heard when you're dating them, right? And so that is the number one thing I would say is, don't let your business feel like the other woman. So how do you do that? Make sure you still have date nights, and make sure you involve her in the business, and hopefully she's involving you in her business, right? That's an important thing to do. So that's thing number one. Thing number two is, while your child is very important, especially to Mama Bear, because you were part of the process, but she was committed. Right? You were part of the process in making that baby. But she was committed for 9 months. And at the end of the day, trust me when I say that baby right now needs mom more than dad.
I agree.
In the future, he will need you more than mom. And that's a very hard thing for mom to reconcile. Right around when he's 12, 13, 14, I remember Andrew was just like, Dad, what are we doing next? I'm like, bro, we're going to go to Houston and we're going to learn to knife fight who was the guy? I got to give him, not Houston, Dallas. Ed, do you remember the name of the knife? Harley Elmore.
Oh, God, we got to look him up.
The guy taught like SEAL Team 6 how to fucking knife fight close quarters, right? Like, he's a badass. And I just happened to know him through a friend of mine who's a SEAL Team 6 guy, Dom Rosso. Shout out to Dom.
Shout out.
And so Dom's like, dude, you got to go and train with Harley Elmore. I'm like, well, I've never even heard of the guy. He's like, yeah, he's like very squirrely. He's got this thing and just outside of Dallas. And so, like, those are the cool things that me and my son do. Like in August, we're going to Maine for the Origin 6-day jiu-jitsu camp, right?
Nice.
And so, but I digress. All this to say, your son right now is more interested in mom because that is the source of life and energy.
Right.
And that's how it should be, which is time for you also to, okay, you might show FaceTime for an hour or so to your son. Don't feel any guilt for not like spending 4, 5, 6 hours a day with him right now, because he's not going to remember a lot of that anyways. And this is very controversial when I say this. People are like, how dare you? Like, shut the fuck up. Build now so that when he is 4, 5, 6, and 7, he's like, man, I just remember my dad being around all the time. Yeah. So I used to take Andrew to speaking gigs with me in New York. He's met everybody from Tony Robbins to fucking, you name it. And I was like, son, you're 5 years old, but that doesn't mean you're not going to stand up and shake hands and make eye contact and ask them questions. Don't just be like, oh, you're Bedros' son. What do you do? What's your favorite toy? Do you play with Legos? I'm like, you ask them questions. And these guys who were sharing the stage with me were like, damn, dude, your son's tuned in. He's really like dialed in. Yeah. So I share this with you because mom right now is going to be like, it's all about the baby. And so you're going to feel the distance because now you're a second-class citizen. Right. Right? Yep. So mom needs to know that, dad still needs attention and love
a little rub
and
respect. Tug every now and again.
Yep. You need it. You need it. So you need that while she needs to feel like your business is not the other woman. Right. And if you guys can maintain a consistent date night, everything will be solid, bro. If not, then it starts to brew underneath the surface. And then once the iceberg pops out, it's a little too late.
Yeah. No, again, sage words. And I feel like, to be honest, right now, I'm only working about 20 hours per week. Thankfully, I'm happy hustling, and I feel very blessed. So we have our Kaizen Dad hiking days. I take them in the wilderness of Montana every Friday for hiking days.
That's awesome, man.
We just get after teaching him fly fishing already. He's learning. And, I'm very present, because I have set myself up for this earlier in life. Yeah. But I do totally feel, the disconnect from my wife as she pours into the baby. And I
Right.
think that is an interesting time as a man, because you need to actually double down and pour more into her because she's giving so much energy,
Yes.
not, let that fracture sever even greater. And I'm curious for you and your wife, I mean, if I may, have you ever had a walk away moment, maybe multiple? And if so,
many.
how do you grit past that? Because nowadays I feel like divorce is so commonplace. People just don't have the grit to stay in a relationship, and the grass is always greener on the other side. And I say the grass is greener where you fucking water it.
Yeah.
And I know you've been able to grit through it with your wife, but
Yeah.
I'm curious if you can recall a walk away moment and how you've persevered past it.
Well, first of all, most walkaway moments are a byproduct of two different humans who
Yeah.
weren't born from the same parents, that met later on in years after they've dealt with being bullied and trauma, whether it's physical, mental, emotional trauma, some of us sexual trauma, like I've been sexually abused. So imagine two strangers coming together. When did you guys meet? How old were you?
10 years ago, so
You were 25.
Yeah.
She was
27.
27.
She was a cougar.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. I like that. You're a sugar
Think
daddy.
this
No, you're a
mustache
sugar
rides
baby.
itself,
yeah.
Bedros?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. But
She calls it the wannabe 70s porn star for the
Yeah,
record.
I can see that.
Mixed with Joe Dirt. I'm like, I don't know
can
how to
see
take
that.
that, babe.
So imagine this, bro. She's got 27 years before she ever met you. You
Yeah.
got 25 years before you met her.
Oh, yeah.
Think of all the baggage you guys are bringing into
Oh,
this
for
new
sure.
relationship.
Oh.
It's not like you guys were siblings where you grow up and you know each other and your mannerisms. And so,
Thankfully not.
Thankfully not. That happens in Kentucky, not in Montana.
Yeah, right.
But it does
Different
happen.
state.
Yeah. Shout out to everyone in Kentucky
Yeah,
who are
well-
brothers, sisters, and married.
Yeah. Cue banjo.
That's yeah. Deliverance. Remember that movie?
Oh,
Deliverance?
yeah.
Yeah. Squeal like a pig, boy.
That's a great
All right.
movie.
So.
Sorry.
With that said, she's bringing baggage, you're bringing baggage.
Right.
And so the walkaway moments happen when you expect her to read your mind. She expects you to read her feelings, because that's how it goes. You want her to read your mind. She wants you to read her feelings.
Yeah.
And you can't do that, and she can't do that. And then typically she gets emotional. Women get emotional. Men get angry. And then you go, you know what? I'm out. And I remember literally grabbing my toiletry kit, because I always had my toiletry kit set up and ready to go, because I would travel a lot and speak early on in my relationship. And so I grabbed it and I walked out and grabbed my keys, walked out the door, got in the truck, and drove right to the Hampton Hotel down the road here. It's like 20 some odd years ago now, 20 years ago. And, like you get a hotel room, you're sleeping by yourself, about 4 or 5 hours go by, and you realize, I want to go back home,
Yeah.
but I'm too angry. And my pride won't let me.
Right. Ego.
Ego, right? And so what I've learned since is when two people come together in marriage, it's like this jagged rock. And all the jagged edges on this rock and all the jagged edges on that rock, these are all the different traumas, belief systems, expectations you have of one another.
Oh, yeah.
The conversations that you refuse to have or don't know how to communicate, feelings, thoughts, ideas, right?
Right.
And so two jagged rocks get thrown into this burlap bag, and then God cinches it up tight. That's called marriage.
Yeah.
Right? And then God decides to shake the fuck out of this burlap bag, and these two jagged rocks are like, I don't fucking know you. Oh, I don't fucking know you.
Yeah.
But you're constantly just clanking into each other while God's shaking this thing up. That is life.
Yeah.
And then every now and again, God opens it up just to see like what's going on. Are these jagged rocks smoothing their edges out or not? Now, each time God opens that bag up, you have an opportunity, or she has an opportunity, to jump out of that bag and say, peace out, sucker, right? That is when people file for divorce.
Right.
But if you're like, no, we're good, man, cinch you back up, have at it, start shaking again, life continues. That is
Right.
life. You have kids,
Yeah.
you have something go wrong in your business, you hire a leader and they stick their dick in an employee, right? And you're telling your wife about it, and she's like, I knew you shouldn't have hired him, you made a bad decision, and you're like, I want to fucking punch you. I was trying to tell you this because you're my safe space,
Right.
So the shaking continues,
Yep.
and one day God opens up that bag, and there's two perfectly smoothed out rocks that fit together perfectly. Stay in the bag, deal with the shaking of life, do the healing, the self-work to smooth out your edges, so that you can be a shining example to humanity of what a good human is. Does that make sense?
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Beautifully said, man. Wow. I love that analogy too. Just we're in the bag, we're getting shaken like
That's it. That's
fucking
life.
crazy.
Yeah.
But eventually it smooths out. And I mean, you're going on what now?
22 years.
22 years, man. I mean,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah. Thank you.
that is impressive. And
Thank you.
you know, that's why for me, like, I only take advice from people that actually trade places with. And I feel like nowadays in the modern landscape, there's a lot of gurus out there,
Sure.
fake gurus. Everyone's renting a
Gurus, I
fucking
like that.
Lambo and, you know, pretending
Yeah.
it's theirs or
Yeah.
their buddy's jet, you know.
Yeah. Well,
riding on
now
it.
there's
Fake jets.
fake jets.
Like
yeah.
sets.
Yeah. A set.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, and it's hard. I see someone like you, and I followed you for years, you know, from a distance, and I know we like to poke holes in people as much as possible. At least for me, like I'm skeptical on, is this person legit? And you've checked every box, man. So I
Right on,
really
man.
do respect you
Thank you.
and what you've built, and to be able to be such a present father too for Andrew and Chloe,
Yep.
Chloe, right?
Yep.
And a loving husband and a man of God. I do want to kind of touch on faith. I mean, I was raised, my mom's Jewish, so I say I'm Jewish. This
Yeah.
honker didn't come
I
from
like that.
nowhere, you know.
Was that a point to the nose?
Jewish. you
Jewish.
know,
Got it. Yeah.
I did go
As
to
an Armenian, I can understand
yeah,
that. Yeah.
you get it.
Yeah.
So, you know, my dad was Catholic, but I was raised this like religious mutt, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and I actually took to Taoism. My mom was big into Tai Chi and like
Yeah.
Kung Fu, so I trained Kung Fu and Tai Chi growing up,
Yeah.
and with the Taoist priest and Kung Fu master from the Wudang Mountains. Shout out to Master Chen, and you know, so I like that Taoism way of life, and now I'm like going to Christian church and soaking up, you know, some of that.
Jesus.
Yeah,
man.
old Yahweh,
Yeah,
you know, and
yeah.
I love the music. I haven't come to know Jesus yet personally,
Yeah.
just speaking honestly at the time of this recording, but I feel very connected to God. And I do
Yeah.
feel like to become a happy hustler, you have to have spirituality
Yeah.
as a part of the picture. Like it's got to be there. You got to have faith in something bigger than yourself, in my opinion. What has your faith journey been like, and where are you at today?
Well, I think in many ways we share a lot of similarities. If you ever get a chance, or if your audience gets a chance, read a book called The Power of Myth by Joseph Campbell. A great book. Joseph Campbell died in his late 80s. He studied religion religiously, and he was a professor of religion for many years. And all religion is metaphor. And so when Jesus died and rose again, right? He was killed.
Yeah.
He died and rose again.
Right.
You and I need to die to our human animals and rise again to our higher beings, to
Right.
consciousness.
Right.
And so we all have God within us, right? We all have God within us.
Amen.
That whisper that you hear, that's your conscience.
Yeah.
That is the purest form of God communicating. In fact, when people feel depression and anxiety, God can't come down, grab you by the shoulders and shake you like your friend can who cares about you.
Right.
The next best way he can do that is by giving you dis-ease, uneasiness, anxiety, depression, overwhelm, stress, allowing you to come to the conclusion, because we have free will, he's given us that, to come to the conclusion that I am not congruent with the man that I love, respect, and value. This is why I feel dis-ease. I'm uncomfortable. I feel anxiety, depression, overwhelm, whatever, suicidal, God forbid. And so with that in mind, his hope for us is that we will use our free will and become congruent with the man that we respect, value, and admire. And if you do that, all of a sudden the dis-ease goes away, right? And so for me, God is universal consciousness. It is the Brahman. It is the universe. Because how can there be so many different religions if there was only one God, right? So maybe there is one God. And as humans, we fuck things up by taking things literal. Like this dude died
Yeah.
and then rose back to life. No, he says, like, I am within you. Like, you have God within you. And again, the power of myth. And I know people are right now, like, the comment section is probably blowing up. Bedros doesn't believe in Jesus. Don't worry. And I'll give you a great example.
Yeah.
Dr. Laura Schlesinger.
Okay.
You may not remember her because you're 35 and I'm 50. But when I was 17 years old and carjacking people for their Honda Civics and Honda Accords because the parts on those cars were worth a lot of money. When I was involved in a police helicopter chase, running away from the cops along with 4 of my friends, shout out to John L. because he listens to my show, one of my accomplices. John L., don't worry, man. I won't share your last name. You're good.
No, did you just rat on John L?
No, man.
Okay.
We're good. We're good.
Okay.
But there may or may not have been a home invasion robbery, right? And I was a getaway driver. So, but I share this with the cops. Got us. We paid our debt to society. Mostly the three of the guys that went in. I was a getaway driver, so I got away with a lot less punishment.
And now your TRX got jacked. So you
Bro,
said karma's
legit.
circulated. I know.
My 79 Toyota pickup is what got me in trouble, right? I was trying to get away from the cops. And then, of course, earlier last year at the Four Seasons in Las Vegas, those motherfucking valet drivers.
I'm telling you, too.
They know what happened because they're the ones that called the dudes who stole my truck.
They're in on it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Bro, if you ever go to the Four Seasons,
100%.
and first of all, the last 4 floors of the Mandalay Bay is the Four Seasons. So it's not even a stand-up hotel on its own.
Right.
The tiny little sign on the side of the street, and then there's all these like palm trees and fucking trees that block the actual entryway. So you can't even see the entryway of the Four Seasons. Joe Rogan stays there. I stay there when I'm speaking in Vegas. A lot of big names. And so I roll up in my TRX. There is no, by the way, self-parking. Tricked out TRX. Yeah, that thing was a beast. Yeah. And they park it for me, and I've been there many a times. The only way anyone would know that there's a TRX parked there is if someone notifies them.
For sure.
Yeah, so anyway, that's how that went down. I don't even know what the fuck we were talking about right now.
Well, we're
talking
just talking about karma and God.
So karma, So here we are, 20-some-odd years later, my truck gets stolen, and I paid the debt.
Sorry to bring that up.
However, exactly 32 days later, I had an identical TRX truck that I went and got and tricked out, and there it is.
Love it.
Yeah. But we were talking about God, and obviously we want to be congruent. I do believe that humans tend to overcomplicate things because we take things literal.
Right.
My belief system is that all religion is a metaphor. It's metaphorical, and it is the human journey, right? The hero's journey when you think about it.
Right.
And so you have greed, you have selfishness, you have anger, you have emotion, you have feelings. You have to kill that version of you and rise up to consciousness, to the higher 2.0 version of you. That's what God did. Jesus died, and when he rose up to a better version of himself. And so that is what we need to do. Now, going back to Laura Schlesinger, I said, I was a shitbag as a young man, getting into a lot of trouble. For some reason, well, probably the voice of God, consciousness, after we would steal a car, take it apart at an auto parts place, like an auto
chop shop,
paint and body place, right? Then we all get paid our couple $100 and go on my merry way. The next morning, I would listen to Dr. Laura Schlesinger on KFI AM 640 radio station. She was this Jewish talk radio psychologist. So she would take calls from people and help solve their problem on air. And I would just listen to her. Yeah. Why a 17, 18-year-old young man is listening to talk radio therapy, I have no idea. But I did, right? Nice. I really feel like consciousness was speaking to me, right? And thankfully I listened. I heard the whisper. Now, every now and again, and Dr. Laura Schlesinger, you can tell by the name, was a Jew. She talked about how she's a Jew, and she wrote great books. One of the great books, by the way, you should have your wife read this book, The Proper Care and Feeding of Your Husband. Like, that's literally one of the books that she wrote.
I love that title.
Yeah. We're no different than animals, bro. We need to be properly cared and fed for.
Yes.
And so with that in mind, every now and again, someone would call Dr. Laura. They'd get past her phone screener, and once they get on the phone with her on public airwaves, instead of talking about what their problem was, because they called it the fake problem, they would go, "You're going to hell, you Jew. You're going to hell because you don't believe in Christ. You should repent." And now, Dr. Laura single-handedly got me off of the streets and committing crime. I imagine she's done this for tens of thousands of people over the decades that she has been on radio. I can't imagine there being a God so cruel to send her to hell because she's a Jew and not a Christian. For that reason alone, when people, and I appreciate them, leave comments and like, "Bedros, you're such a good man. You share such great wisdom, but you're going to go to hell. You just have to repent and accept Jesus." Listen, man, I believe he was a good dude. I believe he was righteous. I believe that he died. I don't know if he came back, and quite honestly, it doesn't matter. I believe that if you just look at Proverbs and use Proverbs as a operations manual of how to act as a human, you're going to do all right in life, right? With that said, I don't believe that because you're not a Christian, you're going to hell, because there's no way Dr. Laura Schlesinger right now, at some point when she passes on, if she has already, I don't know, is going to go to hell. I choose not to believe that. And so that's my position on faith and religion.
Very similar. Yeah.
There you go.
You're right.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Bill Maher has an interesting definition of religion. Have you ever heard it before?
No.
He calls it the purposeful suspension of critical thinking. The purposeful suspension of critical thinking. And I think a lot of people outsource their power to religion,
Right.
or to someone in a white coat. Doctor says, I got a prognosis that I'm going to die from cancer. Meanwhile, this guy just healed from a whole foods diet and stopped shoving shit down the pie hole, and voila, he's back.
Yep.
Right?
I agree.
And I think we outsource our power greatly to experts.
Yeah.
Right? Consultants or whatnot.
Yeah.
And you have to trust your intuition, that voice in your head.
Yep.
Right?
It's funny you say that. You're familiar with Fiverr, right?
Yeah.
Fiverr. When Fiverr first came out, I don't know, a decade and a half ago, 2 decades ago, I remember taking an interest. I'm like, wait a minute, there's people on this website that will just do like odd tasks for me for $5.
Yeah.
And some of them charge $10 for like the advanced version of the task. And I found some dude who had a massive, like shit ton, thousands of reviews. He said, for $5, whatever decision you can't make, I'll make the decision. You just email him. So you pay the $5, send him your question. Like, hey, should I break up with my boyfriend or not? Whatever, right? And he would answer. Like, the dude was making hundreds of thousands making decisions for people. It was like everyday normal decisions that people just didn't want to make on their own because they suspended critical thinking and outsourced logic to someone else. And some guy sitting in a mud hut in Pakistan, probably, I imagine. I'm pretty sure he wasn't any qualified expert.
Right.
Was making $5 per deal times thousands day after day, man.
It's like the human chat GPT back then.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, I mean, AI has inundated our everyday reality and technology at large, for that matter. Where do you think AI is going? And as an entrepreneur, how are you integrating it into your businesses?
Well, so where I think it's going is, I mean, we see it already. If AI was a country, I heard this, saw the stat that if AI was a country, it would currently be part of the top 20 countries in terms of actual people using it. So if you consider each person using it a citizen, top 20 countries, number one. And it would be one of the fastest growing countries on the planet if AI was a country. So imagine that. Every day, I forgot what the number was, but I think it was either 1,700 or 17,000 jobs are lost to AI. So do the math there. So imagine, how might we be using it? Well, for customer support, we use it for communication on social media. We use it for writing copy and emails, right? Captions and such, descriptions on YouTube, etc. It's made it a lot easier to have one good person instead of several mediocre, right? And so if I'm paying, let's say, in fact, I used to have 3 copywriters, and one of them was like the head copywriter, and then there was like the copy cub and a copy cub. And so imagine if you're paying one $75,000 and the other two like $45,000 each. Got rid of the two $45,000 ones because AI is now your copy cub.
Right.
And so give this guy a $5,000 raise, and now he runs the AI for where copy and all that is concerned. And so that's how we're using it. And as people understand that it's not going away, I remember when the internet first came out, right? People were like, oh, it's going to go away. It's just a trend. It's just a fad. And yes, there was the bubble burst in 2000, the internet bubble. But look at it now. It's integrated into our life. And AI will be integrated into our life. And so you could either like dig your heels in like a dog who doesn't want to go out on a cold day, or you have to go, how can I adopt this into my life? Give you a great example. My daughter's Land Rover, the other day, the gearbox, she got a gearbox warning and the car went into limp mode. This was on Sunday, and started going like 6 miles per hour. She was driving to volleyball practice. So she texts me, and me and Andrew go and pick her up. Andrew takes her to the volleyball practice with my truck, and I take her car and park it by the mechanics. I was like, you know what? This thing's getting old. Time to get a new one. So when she came back from volleyball practice, I'm like, hey, Chloe, I want you to get a high-quality Japanese car. You can pick any one you want, Acura, Lexus, whatever. But I want you to get a high-quality Japanese car, no longer European or German, because it's going to break down. If you're going to go to university in a year or two, I don't want you to be out there with the Land Rover that breaks down or any other kind of European, Japanese, or German car. Fair enough, Dad. So she goes, where should I check? And at first I gave the normal answer. I go, check Facebook Marketplaces for one that's a year or two old. Check Auto Trader, check Car Wow. And I'm like, what the fuck am I saying? I'm like, baby girl, pull up ChatGPT and say you're looking for a 2023 Lexus RX 300 within 30 miles, exterior black, interior red, because she found the car that she wanted online.
She's a happy hustler.
Right? Yeah. Bro,
Black and red.
it literally, black and red, that's
there
right.
you
It literally spat out everything for her.
That's
so
awesome.
imagine the research she would have done.
I know, yeah.
Within hours, she got the Carfax reports of the 4 that she wanted. And this Wednesday, tomorrow, we're going to go pick it up.
Heck yeah.
For the price that we want, the mileage that we want, within the location that we want, sold at a dealership that's a Lexus dealership and not like some guy's, garage where it's been, who knows if it's been beat up, dented up, and then refurbished.
Yeah.
So I share this with you because what would have taken her probably days of research took her minutes of research.
Yeah.
Integrate AI into your life.
Yeah. That's how I look at it. It is not here to replace us. It's here to enhance us, like the calculator.
Yeah.
You could do basic math with a pencil on a paper, or you could use a calculator and get it done a lot faster. Nonetheless, I definitely think AI is something as entrepreneurs we have to be on the forefront. We have to adopt and integrate. It's no longer an option, right?
And it's getting better at such an exponential rate.
Right.
Like we had it do a voiceover for me in my voice.
Oh, cool. Yep.
So now videos where, let's say Ed goes to the gym with me and I'm working out and I'm in the car or whatever.
Yeah.
And then we want to do a voiceover of that, like a day in the life of.
Yeah.
We just the copywriter writes the script.
Yeah.
Puts it into AI and says, do it in Bedros' voice. Bro, I had my kids listen and they're like, Dad, that's you, but did you have a cold or something? And I was like, no, that's just AI.
Dude.
But I'm convinced within a couple more months, it's going to be spot on.
Wow. Well, changing gears here as we come to the end of this awesome interview, man. I want to respect your time, but I know you lead men through something called the project, and you also have the Squire program. I know the project you kind of put on a standby for now.
Yeah, we retired that after 20 classes.
20 classes, and our mutual friend William Branham was a part of that,
Right.
dragging people around.
Yep.
We just got a kick out of seeing those videos online.
Yep.
I also lead men in the wilderness in Montana. We go 5 days completely off grid, take their phones.
Awesome.
We hike in 10 miles. My cowboy buddies pack in 10 horses, give or take, with a bunch of gear. And, we're in the middle of nowhere doing a business mastermind, teaching them survival skills, fly fishing, breathwork, meditation, primal workouts, all the things, right? But what I find, and I'm sure what you found, is this vulnerable, raw place to connect as alpha men is hard to find.
Yeah.
Right. And I believe for true transformation, you need expert mentorship, accountability, and you need a community.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are lacking a community these days. I'm curious, in your experience leading men in this capacity, what would you say is the fourth piece? If you had to add anything else that men really need right now, we got expert mentorship, accountability, and community. Anything that you found in your 20 plus classes or in the Squire program that really is lacking?
A backbone. Men need a backbone. Men have lost their backbone, and the opposition, which is big government that's backed by pharmaceutical companies, the war machine, and the big food corporations. 2020, the pandemic proved that men lack a backbone.
Yeah.
Grown-ass men driving in their cars by themselves with
a
2
mask.
layers of masks on. Those pieces of fucking shits.
That's how
Standing
people mask
6 feet
today.
apart, not using common sense. Talk about delegating your common sense to someone else, to Dr. fucking Fauci. Fuck that guy. I hope he gets hung. I share this with you because grown men know what fucking common sense is, yet they allowed the opposition to encroach on their freedoms, the freedoms of their families, the freedoms on their kids. I was like, my kids are not going to wear a fucking mask.
Yeah.
Principal Wend. And by the way, if you want them to wear a mask, that fucking $94,000 awning that I had put up over the fucking playground, I will have that fucking torn down. Like, my kids are not going to wear a fucking mask, period. That's going to fuck them up. And here we are 5 years out, and look how people have been fucked up by all that.
Oh, it's true.
Grown men who should have stood up. It is our job as men to stand in the gap between good and evil. When men don't have a backbone, and their alphaness only shows up with using multiple exclamation points in a comment on Instagram, pieces of shit. Where were they? I had a jacked, one of my dear friends who's a jacked human being, 6'3", an Adonis of a man, absolute athlete, and a wonderful Hollywood actor. During the pandemic, when I was on Fox News 9 times and I was posting out against the government on social media.
I saw you,
He would take a screenshot of my social media posts and then he would send it to me and he says, "Thank you for posting this. I love that you posted that. You speak the truth." I go, "Why aren't you liking it? Why aren't you commenting? Why aren't you sharing it?" man, Hollywood, I can't. Wow, I would rather be fucking broke and deported back to Armenia
Yeah.
and have my kids see that I stood up for what's right, even though it may not have been lawful. I stood up for what's right. I am an outlaw. It is a man with a backbone who should be an outlaw when laws are not righteous. And these motherfuckers decided to not exercise their constitutional rights, their backbone, and became simps to the government. And we saw it, we proved it. And hopefully, if we can take great programs like yours and install backbone in men, men will be great again.
Backbone. That is a great fourth piece, man. And I want to put you through the rapid fire round. Before I do, where's the best place for people to follow you, to check you out online?
YouTube and Instagram. Just at Bedros Keuilian on Instagram and youtube.com/Bedros Keuilian on YouTube. And you'll get all of my great content. You'll love me, you'll hate me, but you will wake up to your higher self.
Oh, amen to that. So I like to put you through just a rapid fire round of random questions that
You got it.
I like to ask, and you just answer first thing that comes to mind.
Yep.
Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, let's go. Favorite food? Hit me.
Pretzel.
Pretzel. I've never
I love
heard
pretzels.
that.
Crunchy pretzels, twisted pretzels, pretzel bread, pretzel buns. I love all types of pretzels.
You and my
Can't fuck with
brother would
pretzels.
get along. He's got them in his nightstand.
Peanut butter filled pretzels. I love pretzels.
Let's go, pretzels. Okay, favorite movie?
Pulp Fiction. Seen it 27 times. Can tell you all about it.
Damn. Favorite book?
Outwitting the Devil, Napoleon Hill.
What's your spirit animal?
A hippopotamus.
Yeah, I love it. Best business advice?
People overestimate what they can achieve in 1 year, and they underestimate what they can achieve in 5 years. Keep doing the work.
Happy hustle hack for your health. Something uniquely Bedros.
Stop drinking alcohol.
Happy hustle hack for your money. Again, something uniquely Bedros. Something that you do to save, spend, or invest wisely.
Instead of buying shit to flash, buy stuff that are assets that increase in value.
Happy hustle hack for your spirituality. Again, way that you connect to a higher power.
Have at least 1 hour by yourself in silence, ideally after your workout, and that workout should be a morning workout. What I do is I go on a walk at, never mind the name of the park, none of anyone's business, I don't need people showing up. I go on a walk at a park across the street from my gym for an hour in silence, and it's the conversation with self is the greatest conversation you will have.
Amen to that. 3 things you're most grateful for today.
My family, my health, and this country.
And if you had a billboard for the world to see with your last piece of content on there, what's that billboard read?
Wait until you see what Andrew and Chloe do for humanity.
I love that, man. And Bedros, brother, I just want to take a moment to acknowledge you, man, for sharing your love, your light, your wisdom, your no bullshit approach to crushing it both personally and professionally, and how to happy hustle the American dream. Truly, man, I respect the heck out of you and what you've built and how you show up every day, and just grateful for you, grateful to share you with our tribe, and hopefully one day I can have you out in the wilderness with us. You can take a poop in a hole next to mine in the woods, brother, and we'll get you hopefully squared up with the grizzly bear, testing that Man Up book of yours in the wild. But man, I'm grateful for you, so I just want to say thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. So, and again, best place for everyone to connect with you online.
Instagram
is
and
where
YouTube,
you're most active.
at Bedros Keuilian.
Love it. And I just want to kind of encapsulate everything we talked about today. Maybe if you could, a rallying cry, tie a bow on just your message you want to leave the happy hustlers.
Yeah, the message is simple. 1, your kids are always watching. Even if they're not there present, they are watching because they can sense, they can feel. They have this internal compass on what dad is doing. So if you're a fat fuck, fix it. If you're lazy, fix it. If you're drinking, cheating, snorting, smoking, fix it. If you're rubbing one out and you shouldn't be, fix it. Because I always imagine that there's a drone flying over me with a live feed that goes directly to Andrew and Chloe's phone all the time. So if I walk into a bathroom in a restaurant and there's piss all over that toilet seat, it is on me to leave it better than I found it. Because if Andrew and Chloe see that dad cut his standards short, that gives them permission to cut their standards short. And so you're a shining example to your kids. And if you the greatest work you will ever do is produce kids who will be an asset and not a liability to society. Your words mean nothing. Your actions mean everything.
Heck yeah. Love that,
Yep.
brother. All right. And the final question I ask all my guests is, what does happy hustling mean to you?
I think happy hustling. I'll say this. I'm gonna steal something from my dear friend Ed Milet, which is
Awesome,
he
dude.
says to be blissfully dissatisfied in life. Right? Hey man, be happy. Be happy with the journey. Be happy with the struggle. Be happy with the destination. Be happy with the frustration. But never be satisfied. Keep pushing further, right? To me, that's what happy hustle is. I'm going to be happy while hustling my nuts off to become the greatest version of myself.
Fuck yeah. Mic drop, y'all. Bedros Keuilian. Thank you all for watching and listening. We are out. Peace and love, everybody.